Oh my God. I'm so overwhelmed to see all of you here. I'm convinced that you indeed are the creme de la creme of young people. And I'm blessed to and grateful to look at you and speak with you. You may ask me anything that you can think of. And I insist that you call me David. And don't call me Mister because I won't respond.
Can you stand up?
Do you have other friends that are Holocaust survivors in Miami?
There's so few of us left, and I'm always saddened when I'm asked, are there any other survivors here? I painfully tell you that the survivors are a dying breed. You know, I came to Miami such a long time ago, and the city of Miami, or greater Miami, had a Holocaust survivor community of over 15,000 people. I stand here so very humbly before you and tell you the sadness. We have approximately 600 of them left. And every day someone else passes. And although in about 6 or so months I'll be 90, but I intend to be active, and I intend to be here, and I intend to speak and tell the world what happened. That's a good question.
Hello, David. I'd like to ask, what kept you going after losing your brother?
What kept you going after you lost your brother?
Jacob, Jacobo was his nickname. Jacob was a big guy, and he protected me. And he got beaten up, and every time he knew that it was actually meant for me. You know, he knew how to protect me and comfort me. One of his continued expressions when we were in the lowest, and we were really beaten, and we were really kicked and punished. And he would always say to me, David, tomorrow is another day. Tomorrow is another day. He taught me how to react. I learned very quickly. He told me I should never look at this Gestapo guard, at this Nazi bastard. He says, never look at him. Always look down. And he'll pretend that he missed you. But deep down inside, they all wanted to hurt us. There's nothing, I'm standing before you. There's nothing magic about me. I was I was practically your age. I was 11 and a half, not quite 12, when we were taken away. And I listened to Jacob, and I knew how to react and how to behave. Never spoke back to the Nazi guards. And I guess that gave me some comfort, but also a little more strength.
Any other questions?
First off, I'm so sorry for all the loss that you've
had in your life, and thank you so much for being here to speak to all these kids. I had a question about the Miami Beach Memorial. Like, what inspired you to be part of that group, and like, how did you guys come up with that design? Because it's very meaningful and it's a very powerful piece. So I was wondering how you came up with that.
Well, we were determined. The memorial was really what five survivors, had hoped that we could make something that will tell the world the realities. You know, as a man who is living in Central Florida, her name is Kenny Twister. He's an old-time Miamian. He's probably the most talented sculptor the world has known. He's also an unbelievable photographer, and he is a historian par excellence.
And an architect.
And an architect. I spent almost 5 years as we were building the memorial, and he was the most inquisitive person I'd ever known. Continually, even in his sleep, he'd be talking and asking things. And to this day, I see him and love him and respect him. And he's now sort of in retirement in Central Florida. But his talent is beyond words. I'd like for you to sort of imagine, but you need to be there. You need to see it. You need to understand what he's trying to tell the world at large. There is a sculpture. It's so unbelievably big. It's about 50-something feet tall. It has 200 faces on it. And I want you to know that for the longest of time, for maybe 3 years, while he was making that sculpture, I used to beg him, Kenny, what the heck are you doing? Please tell me what your intent is. And sure enough, about the evening before he was to announce that sculpture, he says, David, I have the name for you. And sure enough, he called it Of Love and Anguish. And you know that when you look at it, it has so many meanings, to me especially, because humanity did not exist for us. There are 200 faces trying to climb out from the depth of hell to escape, to avoid punishment. And at the worst moments, the 200 faces were helping each other to climb out from that the bottom of hell. And that was, I think, a big part, a very important element of being able to want to get up next day, because we knew what was in store for us. You know, almost since the very beginning of life, people have, it's a way of life. We remember the ones that we lose, the ones that die peacefully, the ones that die because they were sick, the ones that die because of accidents. But you need to somehow, and I know it's difficult, you need to understand that the Holocaust is talked about. It's sort of like a story. You're telling a story, and you're telling that, like, oh, in the 40s, 6 million people were killed. And we talk about it almost like in passing, like we're telling a little story. But no one ever, and I tell it to you as a survivor, no one ever mentions that of that 6 million, 1.5 million were children, younger than all of us here, under 12. Everyone under 12 was mandated to be killed. And somehow the world doesn't talk about it. This was my destiny, to somehow arouse the consciousness of the world. And if we don't remember children, then what in the heck are we good for? What is more precious to humanity than children? I speak to children over 12 because I don't want to spook a child. I don't want that child to see the horrors that humanity was involved in destroying them. And we insist, and when I talk about we, the few of the survivors who are involved in lecturing, we insist that the children be able to remember what happened to children under 12. And I have a feeling that all of you here will be involved in that. And I wasn't just spooking anyone. I am trying and continue to try to arouse every citizen and every human face that I come in contact with. Just light a candle, or say yes, or say I remember. I have two quick stories to tell you, okay? And if your leadership here can extend a couple of minutes that you designated for questions. I got a call from a synagogue in Aventura. And a rabbi says to me, David, you know, there's you speak to a lot of kids at the memorial on Miami Beach, and we have 63 children who are 12 years and a little older. Would you, they insist that you, David, be a docent? So I said, well, Rabbi, I never say no, but there are two Davids. One David is a guy who lives not very far from this fabulous establishment, and there's a magnificent school and all these gorgeous children. And his name is David also. And we nicknamed him David number 1. And me, David number 2. So he says, well, he says, now I'm confused. I said, well, Rabbi, get to the bottom of it, because we don't want to fight. I don't want to fight David number 1, and David number 1 doesn't want to fight David number 2. So tell us which David you're looking for, or the kids are looking for. And I relinquished the David number 1 title to David Marmelstein. And so the rabbi, curious as a rabbi can be, says to me, how come you relinquished the title? I said, well, because he's 1 year and 1 day older than I am. So let him be David number 1. And they said, no, we want you. But the children, the bus pulls up on one Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. 68 kids come out, step out of the bus, and they all line up because they want to hear my introduction. And I told the children that I would be very happy to accompany them through the memorial. And I also told them that I only have one question to ask of them, and that was that they hear me, and that they listen to me, and that after we walk through the memorial, that I'm going to spend an hour asking questions if you want me. And sure enough, but don't interrupt me, because we will have time to talk. And we're into our walkthrough, and sure enough, one young lady is jumping up and down. She wants to be recognized. And I didn't want to recognize her. And then I felt guilty, and I finally said, okay, what, she says to me, hey, David, number 2, what are you getting paid for doing this thing here? And I said, sure. She says to me, well, how much do you get? I said, that's my secret. And she says, well, won't you tell us? And I said, well, after we finish, maybe I'll think about it. Sure enough, when you come to this memorial, I insisted, and I am humble enough not to, I don't want to keep on saying I, but because there were so many people involved, and we went ahead and we decided that we would take a humongous wall and dedicate that wall with people who passed away in the Holocaust. And anyone that ever came to the memorial that knows a person that was killed in the Holocaust, we put their names on that memorial wall. And anyone that ever came to the memorial that knows a person that was killed in the Holocaust, we put their names on that memorial wall. And so we are now finished walking through, and we finally get to this wall of memory. And I asked this young lady to come and stand next to me. We created a sort of a half a circle facing tablet number 1. And we have like 180 tablets. And we have 183,000 names. And so I started telling them that I want you to know, as to my reward and the importance of standing here with you in front of tablet 1, and I started to tell them the name of my father, my mother, my brothers, my 2 little sisters. And as I'm going with my finger, I'm kind of sliding through the names that I just mentioned. And I was having my finger on my little sister named Leah. And she, the same young lady that interrupted me, and she was sobbing. She was like out of control. And I said to her, why are you crying? She says, my name is Leah. And I said, Leah, that's my reward. That tablet is my reward. The rewards are of every person that's mentioned on this wall of memorial. So we light the candle to remember. We talk about someone that passed and was killed, and that's a form of remembering. And the survivors, those few that are still here with us, we know that, and we get rewarded speaking with you, addressing you, asking you to please remember, asking you to tell the world at large.
Did your religion help you? Did it help you go through your experience?
He's asking if your religion helped guide you through the experience, help you get through the experience.
I didn't have time to be religious. And I'm not, and this is not very funny, but I used to answer people because they were asking me how I couldn't imagine in a 12 and 11 and a half and 12 and 12 and a half, I don't know how religious I had to be. I knew that I was wishing that I wasn't being beaten and punished, but then at the same time, the whole world was You know, I remember saying to Jacobo, everyone is saying, oh God, oh God. And Jacobo said, David, maybe he's sleeping. It was a very little help, because I couldn't understand what the Jacobo meant by that. But for sure, if he wasn't sleeping, God Almighty, how can you go ahead and kill 6 million? How did you kill 1.5 million children? And not be concerned. I told the young lady at Coral Gables High, she was asking me that I was, she was upset with me. She cried, and she said that I once when I was speaking, that I said that I kind of believed. I tried to believe and believe in something, and then at the same time, 10 minutes later, I said that I didn't, because he didn't help me, and he didn't help my brother, and he didn't help 1.5 million children. So this young lady insisted to talk to me at Coral Gables High. Insisted to talk to me at Coral Gables High, and she told me her name. She says, my name is Lourdes, and she says, I can't believe what you said, and I'm very upset. And I said, well, why are you upset? Why should you be asking me, where is God? Where was God? I'm asking you, where were the people? Where was the world when all this was going on? Where is the world? All the horrendous killing and destroying of life right now, as I speak to you. We have a responsibility to speak up. We have a responsibility, all of you. That should be your most important undertaking, to speak up and help and make sure that this insanity doesn't prevail anymore.
Because you have gone through so much, how do you believe that you were able to cope? How were you able to cope through all of the emotional and physical trauma? And do you ever truly believe that you could forgive and forget what was done to you and 6 million of people around you?
It's not easy to cope. I want you to know that I still have nightmares. I also want you to know that there is a thing called like testing, being tested, and being maybe even put on a spot. I've been asked by the clergy, by rabbis and ministers and priests, well, David, maybe David, maybe it's over time, maybe you shouldn't be that angry. Just very recently, I was asked by a rabbi, Maybe, maybe you should kind of get a little bit nicer. And maybe you should not think about it so much. And I want you all to know it doesn't make me any better. It doesn't make me any angrier. But I can tell you this, how can I forgive if I can't forget? Please, don't consider me being off the rocker. I can't be in constant pain. And I was having listened to Jacobo, having watched his behavior, thinking about him is helpful. The commandant, the guy who was in charge of Auschwitz, was considered one of the most prestigious citizens of Germany, but yet he made sure, he made a proclamation to the world that it's too expensive to use bullets to kill children and humanity. And he went ahead and suggested to the Nazis, to Hitler, that they use gas. He says a bullet was considered costing the equivalent of 6 cents. And with that same 6 cents, the gas, the 6 cents worth of gas can kill 14 people. So for me, I like reality. I feel that I overcame so much, and I'm entitled to be around people. I'm entitled. I'm actually destined. I was destined to survive. I believe it. And God Almighty, I get my energy looking at you. I get my energy because I see you listening. I have my energy knowing that this is, I call it assurance, that you will, when you have a chance, if you're asked about the Holocaust, that you tell them how you perceive it, and that you heard me, and that you keep on telling people who don't know very much about the Holocaust, make them aware. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank your leadership. I want to thank your teachers. And all of your leadership and all of your teachers and all of the helpers here. I thank you from the bottom of my heart to make it possible for your students who are caring and good-looking and smart and the future of the world you are. Thank you.